And welcome to another edition of Two Steps Ahead podcast, encouraging you to take your passion, make it happen, let yourself be great. I'm Son Edom, and as we approach the new year, the old year, eventually going to end, and the new year, the anticipation of what's to come is the topic of the day. When you look back on this past year, what do you see? Did it fly by in the blink of an eye? Or is it something that it seemed to drag on and on and on? What victories can you celebrate? Were there struggles that you had to overcome? Lessons that you had to learn? When I think back on this past year, I look at some of the things that transpired, and it was almost, when you look at it, the first half of the year and the second half of the year, it was almost that tale of two cities. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. You look at the beginning of last year, and a lot of fun things took place. Teaching at a new college, attending baseball games, including the College World Series, the Big Ten tournament, family reunion. Got to see a lot of family, hadn't seen in a while. And it was a pretty big reunion. Family wedding that took place. When you teach, you typically have the summers off. And so I decided to look for a summer job and ended up working at a pool, which was a lot of fun. Working on my tan while at the pool. But again, a lot of good things, a lot of fun memories took place in the first half of last year. And then as August rolled in into September, things started to change. The clouds started to roll in. The struggles began. My father ends up getting sick, seriously. A serious illness puts him in the hospital, not once, but twice. And then as he's getting better, we roll into October, starting to feel better. Things are starting to look up. Get the unexpected phone call that my sister passed away unexpectedly. Had no idea. And then the holidays roll in, and you have all that to deal with on top of it, trying to celebrate and have fun and enjoy the holidays. And then through all of that, I got to travel, do a little bit of traveling, which was fun. Did not get to go on a big trip that I had planned. I'd planned to go on a road trip and follow the Twins, my favorite team, the Minnesota Twins. Travel around the country. I was going to go to, I think I was going to start in Pittsburgh, and then travel over to Cleveland, and then up to Detroit, and then down to Cincinnati, and it would have been all in about a week or so. And that was their road trip. Check off some city parks off the bucket list, right? Some baseball parks. But because life happens, wasn't able to do that. So again, when you look at the past year, what victories were you able to celebrate? What struggles did you have to overcome? And what lessons did you have to learn? And as we wrap up this year and move into the next year, one of the things that we can do is reflect upon the lessons that were learned, both personally, relationship-wise, and maybe spiritually. You know, when they say life is short, they really mean it. Billy Graham had a sermon one time talking about how he tried to convince young people that life is so short. When he was in his 20s, people would tell him life goes by so quick. He didn't believe it. He tries to tell young people, they don't believe it. Nobody believes life goes by so quickly until you get to kind of this side of life, right? And then you realize, wow, just a little bit ago, I was in high school. Just a little bit ago, I was in college. Just a little bit ago, I was getting my first job. I was moving across the country. I was doing all these things just a little bit ago. but a little bit ago has now turned into a number of years. But life is short, and tomorrow is not guaranteed.
There may not be a tomorrow for you and for me, because there's a warning to time. Time is running out for all of us. Time is too short for indecision and vacillation. Do not halt between two opinions. Fools say that time is long. Every morning we have 86,400 seconds to spend and to invest. And each day the bank named time opens a new account for you and for me. It allows no balances and no overdrafts. If you fail to use the day's deposits, the loss is yours.
Wow, son, that's a Debbie Downer going into the new year. But no, it's actually, if you want to look at it, it's a motivation for us to reflect upon what we've done this past year. Did we live life to the fullest? If not, can we look to the future and live life to the fullest? Can we take advantage of those 86,400 seconds in a day and make sure every one of them counts? When you wake up in the morning, are you grabbing your phone and scrolling through social media, looking on the internet? Or are you getting up, getting ready, being productive? Because as you sit there and scroll, time is ticking, tick tock, tick tock. Is that a good use of our time? And again, that is your decision. That's my decision. But what are we doing with those time? Are we investing time with people? We talked about a little bit about looking at the past year from a personal, a relational, and a spiritual. What about investing time with people? Life gets busy. We see people at the holidays. Maybe we reach out every once in a while. Maybe we send them an email or a text. But maybe we need to spend more time investing in people. Maybe we need to be just grateful for the things that we have. Spend some of that 86,400 seconds being grateful, recognizing God's faithfulness in our season, in every season that we've gone through this year. You know, people say there's always the debate about, especially with people that really don't understand, how can there be bad things that go on in this world? Why does evil exist? And that's a full story, a full conversation for another time. But the brevity of it is that what we can realize is that in both our celebration and our suffering, God is always there. He never leaves us. He never forsakes us. So we can celebrate and recognize the faithfulness. Maybe you did get a new job. Maybe you reconnected with family members over a funeral. Maybe you were able to meet new people at the hospital or develop deeper friendships as people came to visit. Or family reunions, you're able to reconnect with family members that you kind of get distance with over time and space, right? People move away. You think about the holidays and all the family gatherings. I think about the family gatherings we had growing up during the holidays, especially at Christmas and New Year's. My grandparents lived right down the street from Colorado Boulevard. So New Year's Day at the parade. And then New Year's Day after the parade, back at the house, watching the Rose Bowl game, having food. Christmas Eve, maybe at my grandparents', maybe at my aunt and uncle's house. But then as we get older, family starts to move away. Now they're at the four corners of the globe, or maybe the four corners of the U.S. now as people have kind of come back. But things change. And now how many of us would like to, for one night, go back to that Christmas Eve, go back to that New Year's Day? But time marches on. Grandparents pass on. Family members pass on. So we've got to take advantage of every second we have with them. Invest in time, or invest our time in people. Be grateful for the people that we have, recognizing and celebrating that God is there with us in both celebration and suffering. Looking toward the new year, maybe that's something that we focus on. Maybe we need to let go of regret, let go of shame, let go of disappointment. Maybe we all tried to do something in the last year and we weren't able to achieve it, whatever that might be. Maybe we did some things we weren't supposed to. Maybe we got to just let it go. Because you can't change the past, but it can affect your future. It can affect your future either in the negative or in the positive with lessons learned. They always talk about studying history because when you study history, you learn about the past, right? And then the reason we learn about the past is so that we don't repeat those same mistakes in the future. There seems to be a lot of people in this country that could or need a history lesson or two because we're repeating a lot of mistakes. You can only control the things that you can control. There was a pitching coach one time talking to him, and he would always tell pitchers that once the ball left your hand, there's nothing you can do about it. You can't control where the ball goes. Now you try before you release it on the pitch to execute the fundamentals so that the pitch goes where you want it to go. And a lot of times, especially when you get to the pro level, pitchers can put the ball where they want to, but every once in a while, it gets away from them. So even at the professional level, once the ball releases from their hand, it's out of their control. But you control what you can. You can control the mechanics, the release point. You try to control all that to be successful. So we can only control what we can control. Let God control the rest. You think about maybe the wrongs that were done to you, holding that grudge, weighing us down, being an anchor in our lives. Maybe forgiveness is an avenue or a path to walk down in the new year. Not only forgiveness from the things we've done, God's available to forgive us if we're sorry for the things we've done, but maybe from others or for others. Because again, when you look at life and you look in the past, and even just this past year, what are some of the things that transpired that maybe altered your year? Unfortunately, I'm sure a lot of people had breakups this past year, relationships that fell apart. Was there something specific that maybe caused that? Was it an argument? Maybe did you let someone get away because you couldn't get the strength or the courage to tell them how you felt? Maybe you were going to feel embarrassed. You weren't sure how they were going to respond. And so you're like, well, I better just keep it to myself. Or did you take a chance and did it work out? Or did you take a chance and maybe it didn't work out? Maybe that's not the one. So there's a lot of things that can really, the little things build to the bigger things, right? When you're building a building, you got the foundation. And then as you are building that foundation, the rest of the building gets up, starts to grow tall. And that's one of the things that we have to do is we have to work on those foundational things as we move into the new year to make sure that we're on the right footing when the new year comes. Because again, life is short.
What a thing it is when you think that you have just one short life to spend and it'll soon be over. I'd write down my priorities in life. And I'd get committed to certain priorities. Now is the accepted time. The things we ought to do, the classes we ought to take, the books we ought to read, do it now. The family that needs you, spend more time now. Write that letter home now that you've been meaning to write. Money you ought to give now. Time for study, do it now. People you ought to witness to, do it now. Every time the clock ticks, it seems to say now. Today, if you will hear his voice.
Now is the time to do the things that maybe you weren't able to get done from years past and the New Year's resolution. You want to go back to school? Go back to school. You're never too old to go back to school. You're never too old to learn a trade. You're never too old to learn a musical instrument, to learn a new language. It might be harder, but do it now. You want to meet new people? Do it now. Now's the time. 86,400 seconds in a day. Life is short. Tomorrow is not promised. Do it now. If you want to release regret, do it now. Release shame. Do it now. Disappointment. Do it now. Why carry that into the new year? If you want to make changes, do it now. Don't wait until January 1st at midnight. Do it now. Start now. Start the foundations now. One of the things that I started doing in this past year was going to the gym, right? Everybody goes to the gym. Well, I actually did it. It was about April, May, somewhere in there, I actually started going. Now, in the past, I was never successful because I never had a plan. So, talked with someone, came up with a simple plan that works for me. And I was being quite successful in April, May, and even into June a little bit. But then, of course, the summer months hit. Traveling, family reunions, family weddings, more traveling, working, things like that. So wasn't as productive just because the schedule. Then when late August and September started to hit, school started up again, more of a regular schedule, got back into the gym, and it's been consistent 3-4 times a week ever since. Pretty consistent. Obviously, I have some end goal health gains that I want to make. But as I'm going through the process, the thing I'm realizing is that it takes more than just showing up. You put in the work, but you also have to plan ahead. And not only that, there's the diet aspect to it. There's the sleep aspect to it. There's the actual how do you work out. And then depending upon how long it's been, it might take a little bit for the muscles to get back into shape to be able to do the workouts. So you might start with small amount of weights just to go through the motions so that the body gets used to the movement, so that you get used to the routine of the movement. You do them correctly, and then you start to increase weight. But it took a little bit of time. And now, after about 6 months or so, you start to see gains because my body had been so out of shape. And because there was a little bit of inconsistency during the summer, so I looked just to September, late August, and now you start to see the gains because it took a little bit of time. It took a little bit of time for me to get used to walking on the treadmill. I know it might not seem a lot, but I could barely walk. And I walk at incline and I walk at a rate of speed that's a little bit more vigorous. So it's not just a casual walk on the beach on the treadmill. But my goal was to get to a certain place, and I could only do maybe 10 minutes if I pushed myself when I first started at half of my goal. Now I'm at goal with the incline rate and the speed rate, the pace, and I've extended that now to 15 and now 20 minutes. So again, it takes time. You build the foundation. But if you start that now, when we still have a couple weeks left or whatever of this year, or even if you get into the new year and you get a late start to it, if you start the foundations and you set maybe a long-term goal, like maybe by the end of next year, I want to be this. Now you've set the foundation and you can achieve that because you got to set yourself up for success. And that's why when you reflect upon things in the past, you can use those to be successful in the future. So do it now. So after you've taken a look at the past, maybe you start to realize that growth is starting to shape up. Maybe you're starting to see how the adversity that has maybe overshadowed part of your year last year or this past year has refined you. Maybe it's made your faith stronger. Maybe it's built more character. Maybe it's given you empathy. You know, one of the things that's hard to do when you're at the hospital is, be there. But when you're visiting, like when I go visit Dad at the VA, you see these other veterans and you know the sacrifices that they made, and they're sitting there in their rooms and they're by themselves. Now, I don't know if they have family in the area, but I try to at least say hi, thank them for their service, maybe, ask them a little bit about their service if I can. Don't want to be intrusive, but they're there by themselves. And it makes you reflect upon the fact that, people are important, family are important. One of the things that helps an infant grow is the bonding with the mother, but just being held. There was a study long ago in college that I reviewed for probably a sociology class or something. And it was an orphanage in Europe, probably back during the Eastern Bloc countries when the Iron Curtain was still up, before the fall of Russia then, before Gorbachev tore down that wall. But there was a study that took place that infants that were in orphanages, the ones that got held more grew healthier or grew stronger, got bigger. The ones that were kind of ignored were still kind of small, runt of the litter type. And so that personality, that interpersonal connection is extremely important. And so that reminded me that as you're doing work, is work the job? Yes, it's important. Yes, we must do that. But is that the legacy we're going to leave behind? Because tomorrow's not promised. Maybe we should spend more time with family, with friends, doing other things. We always look to Friday night, right? Friday night, party night. Yay, we're going to go out and do something. And then Friday night rolls around like, ooh, what am I doing? And we end up at home on the couch watching something. Or maybe New Year's Eve. Everybody wants these grand plans for New Year's Eve for that 1 second when it goes from 11:59 to midnight and the new year is here. We want all this excitement for that 1 second. But yet, how many of you get out there and do it? Maybe a lot of you do. But I know a lot of people that end up on the couch watching the ball drop. I've done that many times. But what if you did something of service to other people? It might take some forethought. It might take some plan. What if you did go to the VA and visit the veterans or a retirement home, an old folks home, people that shut-ins, homeless shelter, whatever. You come up with your idea that suits you the best. What if you got a couple people together and did that? Because I am of the belief that it's not necessarily what you do, but who you do it with. That's what makes it fun. That is what makes the experience. You can have some fun things. How many of you maybe have gone to Disneyland? I know in the past, gone to Disneyland with some people. Not so much fun. It's the happiest place on earth, but the experience wasn't that fun because of the people I was with. Then maybe you go to the park and sit on a park bench, and now you're with somebody. Maybe you're romantically interested with them or in them, and you're just sitting on the park bench, and it's the best time of your life, right? So it just depends. But it's the who you're with that makes the difference. And that's what you want to have in your life. You want to have the who you're with in your life be exciting, be there to push you forward, be there to make life better, challenge you, call you out if necessary. Be honest, have that honest, open relationship. But those are the people we should have around us, not the ones that are kind of the superficial ones that we go and have a good time with. But are we really having a good time? Knowing that they're not as real as people I should have around me. Because again, we can't take anything with us. So is the job, being married to the job, is it really worth it? How much money can we have? It's important. The job's important. Work's important. All that's important. But is it okay to leave early and not stay till 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night? Can you really put a report off until the next day? Are there things that you can do so that you can be home? And again, if you're a young parent with young kids, and we all know life goes by fast, there's only a certain stage. It's what? Maybe 0 to 6 months that the baby is in kind of that infant mode. About 6 months or so, they start to sit up, right? And then between maybe 6 and a year, they start to get mobile, crawling, rolling around, doing whatever. Then about a year or so, they start walking. And then about 2, they're terrible. And next thing you know, they're in kindergarten and life races on. And what do? We hand them an iPad or a screen to entertain them. There was something that went around social media, a video, and it's usually typically of a baby in a basket or something. And it has some script on it that basically says something to the effect of, mom is sitting there saying that she didn't get the laundry done, didn't get the dishes done, didn't go grocery shopping, got no responsibility done. Like the responsible things did not get done. But then from the baby's perspective, it's like mom held me, mom showed me love. We took a nap together. We read a book together. We did all these things together. It was the greatest day of my life. That's the mentality we should be looking at. How can we make this the great day of our life, the best day of our life today? How can January 1st be the best day of our life? How can January 2nd be the best day of our life? How can January 3rd be the best day of our life? And how can we make it the best day of our life, but also maybe somebody else's life? So we learn what's really important: family, friends, the people around us, because we know we can't take anything with us. So we want to leave behind that positive legacy. Maybe we have growth beyond achievement. Maybe we want to become more loving, more patient, more resilient, because love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it's not proud, it's humble. Maybe we want to show that kind of love towards people. Maybe you've seen that video of that lady that was kind of screaming at the older lady that was working at Target because she had a specific shirt on. And it was a terrible video. I mean, that lady that berated the worker with the shirt, pure evil, no doubt about it. But is that what you want? And then people found out where she worked, started calling her healthcare place of employment. I don't know what happened. Really don't care. I just know that that lady is seriously ill in the head. But it's like, is that what you want? And why do you post that on social media? I mean, were you thinking that you were going to get praise because you're berating an older lady for a shirt that she's wearing? And she was the nicest lady. That's not love. That's not patient. That's not even the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, gentleness, goodness, faithfulness, self-control. Maybe we need to practice self-control in the new year. Maybe as we look to the role of community, we've tried to go it alone, but maybe we want a role of community to help us in our healing, in our spiritual maturity. Maybe we want people to pray for us as we pray for them. You know, there was a thing at one time, again, another social media thing, where the whole thoughts and vibes thing. Thoughts and vibes, thoughts and vibes. I'm sending you thoughts and vibes. Now, I don't really care. When my sister passed away, people were sending me thoughts and vibes. I didn't care about what they were sending, like the words that were being sent. It was the sentiment behind it. Because not everybody's going to believe the same way I believe. Not everybody's going to believe in the same faith that I have. Okay? People are different. But it was the fact that somebody had the sentiment behind it to take the time to send me something, recognizing the fact that I was going through a loss. And that's what I appreciated. So the whole sending thoughts and vibes was, the verbiage was irrelevant to me compared to the thought and the expression behind it. But that's what happens. We lean too much on social media. We lean too much on the acceptance of others through this digital media, strangers, if you will. But maybe we need to get out of that community, which is toxic, get out of that community, which is pretty evil and vile, and get into a personal community with people. Maybe you find a club. Maybe you find a group, whatever it is that you're interested in. I know at one time there was, and again, this was pre-COVID, so obviously things change, but I know a couple of people that would go to, there was this game, I think it's like Warhammer 28,000, 56,000, whatever, the Warhammer game series. And they would go to an actual gaming store on a Sunday afternoon. They all sit around the table and they would paint their Warhammer people, dealy whackers. Not my scene, but they had community. Maybe you have a book club. Do they have those anymore? Maybe you have whatever. In fact, just the other night, we were sitting around. It was the last night for class before the winter break, the Christmas break. And we're playing music, different kinds of music. Started out with Christmas music, and we started playing things. And of course, me and the couple other teachers, obviously a little bit older than the students, and we're about the same age. And since we deal with young people all the time, a lot of times they don't get our pop reference culture responses, our pop culture references. They don't really listen to the same music. We don't listen to the same music. Things are different. But when we're all sitting in the same room, the teachers, we were playing some songs, and we kind of forgot about the youth and we start playing our music and we start talking about it and the history behind it and stories behind it, our experiences behind it. And the other guy, teacher, said it was actually nice to sit there for a little while and talk about the same things that with us that he was interested in. We had the same musical interests, all of us, and talking about it. Community. It's important. And he enjoyed that because we don't get that too often, right? So it's that community out there that we need. So maybe community helps us in healing. Maybe it helps us in the spiritual maturity. And maybe we get past the superficial. Oh, I'm sending you thoughts and vibes, whatever, to the real. Thank you for that sentiment. Thank you for sending me that message. I really appreciate it. Thank you for thinking of me. Maybe that's something we need to focus on in the new year. Maybe we need to listen, or maybe we need to learn to listen. Maybe we need to learn to slow down. Slower pace of life. Take more time to listen to people. Take more time to communicate with people in whatever form. Maybe stop and smell the roses. Maybe you should, or we should, depending upon your level of faith, trust God more deeply. Be still and know that I am God. Listen for that still small voice. Wait on the Lord. If the Bible is a part of your faith, there is a lot of be still, listen, wait, telling us to slow down. Get out of that rat race, because we do run the rat race of life. So maybe in the new year, we do slow down. Slow down for other people, wait for them to catch up. Slow down so that we can listen for God's leading and guiding. And maybe that's the growth that's going to help shape us in the new year. The other thing we can do is, turn our lessons into hopeful expectations. Instead of stepping into the new year with fear or apprehension or anticipation, maybe we step into the new year with faith. We step into the new year trusting God, who already stands in our tomorrow, that he's going to be there. The same God who carried us through last year is going to be faithful to lead us into the new year, both good and bad. Because I'm a believer that everything we go through, every lesson that we go through prepares us for what's next. People have asked oftentimes, are there any regrets in life? Well, there's things I probably, if I was to go back, I probably wouldn't do again. Absolutely. But those are the things, too, that also make me who I am today. All those scars of life, all those good things, everything up to this point has made me who I am. And if maybe I changed something, kind of get my flux capacitor and go back into the time continuum and the ripple effect, changes everything back to the future. Maybe I wouldn't be the same person I am today. Think about some of those small acts of kindness that then ripple into something big. Have you ever stood at a lake or maybe a pool or some body of water and you've taken the smallest of pebbles? Or maybe you've been on a lake and you want to get one of those flat rocks and you're going to skip it, see how long it skips. But if you take the smallest of pebbles and you toss it into the lake, it's going to ripple. And it's going to continue to ripple until probably the energy either dies out over a long stretch of lake space or until it hits the shore and maybe causes a little wave. And then, of course, the bigger the rock or the bigger the pebble, eventually you're going to get a bigger ripple and maybe even a wave, right? But just the littlest of pebble drops into a body of water causes a ripple. Just the littlest of a spark can cause a fire. We've learned about fires in this past year, right? Unfortunately, and what happened and maybe the cause of it and how it affected it, but just took a little spark to have either a negative effect, like what we saw in LA, or the positive effect of fire in a fireplace on a cold night, or fire to heat food that we can eat. So again, but just takes the littlest of things. And so maybe this new year, we're not starting over. Maybe we're starting wiser, and we're going to start out with maybe just, we're just going to throw in a few of these smallest of small pebbles into my lake of life and get the ripples going. And it's going to be, I'm going to do this, be committed to this year. I'm going to do that this year. And you start getting these little ripples going, you get the momentum going. Because one of the things too, that if you enjoy water, you know that it can hurt if you hit it. People that high dive, like do the diving from way up high, you'll see water hit the, maybe coming out of the pool from the side of the pool, whatever, when you have these high people jumping off a diving board or something. Because one, they want to see where the surface is, but two, you want to keep the surface of the water going, because if you hit it, it could be hitting concrete. So you want to keep the water moving so that you can have a displaced water top, tabletop of water to go into. So all that's important. So maybe instead of just hitting 2026 head on, you're going to drop in a couple pebbles, get the ripples going, get the water moving, and then you can slide on in. When you try surfing, you need to have the right wave, right? But you got to be out there. You got to be up, bobbing up and down. And then the right wave comes and you ride it in. Or maybe it eats you alive. But then you go back out there and you do it again. So maybe we're starting wiser in the new year. Maybe we're going to let go of that pressure for perfection. Maybe we're going to frame the new year as an invitation for life for us, and not a demand, not I have to do this, but I'm gonna do this. The new year is inviting me in, is ushering me in to the new year so that I can do X, Y, Z. And then for me, most importantly, is allowing God to order our steps, our priorities, our relationships. And that's one of the benefits that I enjoy personally in life with my faith and my belief, is that I know God's going before me. Yeah, I muck it up all the time. I step off the path that he lays out. I step off of it all the time. I do my own thing. I'm like, hey, this looks way more interesting than this path, God. I'm going this way. I'll check you on the detour. And then it doesn't go so well. But at least I have the assurance knowing that my steps, my priorities, my relationships, things in life, I already know that if I follow God's plan, 2026 is going to go accordingly. Now, it might be like 2025, unexpected death in the family, unexpected illnesses. There's going to be some things because we live in a fallen world. But I don't blame him for that. I trust him to work it out in the end, because I'm not living for life here on earth. Yes, I am, because I have to be here. But my ultimate goal is not to live for life here on earth, but to live for life in eternity, in heaven. That's my personal goal. And so as this life happens, I look at my sister, she passes away. It's sad for the people left behind, but through her faith, she is now, I feel, in heaven. And it's not just everyone dies and goes to heaven thing. It's like, no, I actually believe from the testimony of the people at the funeral that I heard that she came to faith and is now in heaven. Or my aunt, or my grandparents, or, family members from when I was young and we would get together, those that have gone before, same thing, assurance that they're in heaven, because that was our faith. But allowing God to lead the way in 2026 could be something that we look to do. That's what I'm going to look to do. Now, so it's a new year. What are some of the things perhaps that you could do if because people want some tangible things, like I said, you go to the gym, you have to have a plan. So I have a plan. I do, this exercise, and I do everything the same pretty much. This exercise first, this one second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and then I do this and this. I do this many reps, this much rest in between, all of that. So I stay pretty consistent because that works for me. I'm not going to be, this big bodybuilder, Mr. Universe type stuff. So I don't have to focus on all the little things and do all 18, bicep muscle lifting, weightlifting stuff and things like that. I'm just going for overall health. So I do what works for me. But I have a plan, a tangible plan. Okay. So maybe you're the type of person that needs a tangible plan to get through whatever it is. And so maybe in 2026, you want some challenges, maybe we can call it, or growth, some plans for growth. And so maybe one of the things you can do for a personal growth experience is to begin each day, maybe with prayer, maybe expressing gratitude, or maybe you journal something, or maybe read a scripture or a meditation, or whatever you do, something other than grab the phone and start scrolling. Maybe you pause. Maybe you get up 5 minutes earlier. Yes, I know. 5:55 a.m., the alarm going off at 5:55 a.m., and the alarm going off at 6, huge difference. Oh, come on, son, it's 5 minutes. Psychologically, that 5 in the hour slot versus that 6, huge difference. But maybe we get up that 5 minutes earlier so that we can start our day with an intentional something, an intentional expression of gratitude, an intentional expression of prayer, or of writing something down, whatever it is. Maybe we do that. Maybe we want to grow ourselves, right? So maybe we do one small, brave thing a day, something that stretches you, something that gets you out of your comfort zone. Maybe you start a conversation with somebody you don't know. Maybe someone's done you wrong and it's an ongoing grudge. Maybe you decide to forgive first. Maybe you want to try something new. Maybe it's a food. Maybe it's a hobby. Whatever it is, you figure out what's good for you. But you get outside your comfort zone. One of the things that I've been able to do through life, pretty much through choice, well, choice because I wanted to do it. Like, for example, working in the radio business, I had to move away from LA to get my first job. That was highly outside my comfort zone. The job was 6 p.m. to midnight, highly outside my comfort zone. I'm used to, the 9 to 5 type job type thing. So a lot of things early in my professional life got me outside my comfort zone. Talking about the VA, back in middle school, okay? The school I went to was right across the street from a VA, and during the holidays, we would take a trip over to the VA in 7th and 8th grade, and we would go and visit the veterans. And it was out of my comfort zone because not only were they veterans, but a lot of times they were missing limbs. Something was different, something out of my comfort zone. I'm not used to seeing people without limbs, but I got used to it. And then I think it might have been a 3-year thing because I remember the first year I met this guy, his name was John Matuzak. And then I think he was missing an arm perhaps, or maybe a leg the first time I met him. And I sat and talked to him for a while because he was in Vietnam. My dad was in Vietnam. The next year went back and again, same thing, but he was missing another limb because he was getting sicker and sicker. That's why he was staying in the VA. And then I think the third year, I don't think I found him again. So I don't know whatever happened to him. And then in college group, college ministry at church decided that we were going to go once a month and work at a mission downtown, Union Rescue Mission or something like that. And we were going to serve food and things like that. Again, a little bit outside my comfort zone. I've never done that before. And, you have these weird kind of thoughts going through your mind that, you're going to end up getting sick because they're all diseased or something's going to happen. You're going to get robbed, stabbed, whatever, because it's a rough part of town. Thankfully, God provided and protected us. But again, now, and then this was probably one of the most recent ones. I was doing some substitute teaching and I got a job that was life skills. So I was thinking home ec, right? We're going to teach a little bit about cooking and, maybe whatever, but home economics was my thinking. I got there and they were students that were both mentally and physically disabled, like severely. And I walked into class in the morning as the sub, and there was a couple nurses that were there to help out, but they were more there for the medical aspect of it. And I'm like, what am I doing here? I mean, these people are severe to the point that it's like you have to be routine, because if you got outside that routine, they would literally have a meltdown. And these are like 17, 18, 19-year-old students. Way outside my comfort zone. I don't know how to handle this. But then one guy, it was kind of lunchtime, and the nurse was feeding them because, again, they're kind of medical as well. And she had to go take care of another student. So she asked me to feed this guy, this kid. And he loved pudding. And again, it got messy. And I'm like, kind of like, But here was the thing that I looked at. Okay. I'm taking a situation that for me is like, dude, I want out big time. And then I start to see the joy on his face about the pudding. And I'm starting to think to myself, here's a kid that has done nothing in life. He was born this way. And all he does is he just walks around the room, literally walks around the room. He has to wear a helmet because he could have a seizure, fall, hit his head. So again, nothing did he do to deserve this. He was born this way. But he comes to school and tries to learn life skills somehow so that he can maybe someday exist outside of a hospital. So I'm feeding him this pudding and I'm starting to see the joy on his face. And now my focus became off of me and onto him, and realizing if I'm not there giving him the pudding because he can't feed himself, he's not enjoying life at that moment. Changed my perspective. So again, anytime I can get outside my comfort zone, I try to do that. And again, I probably didn't tell that story, give that story justice because I have a condensed time, but it made a big impact on my life because I walked in the classroom in the morning and I saw the students, and it wasn't the students. It was like, dude, I don't know what to do. Because I worked with special education students, autistic and ADHD and all that type of stuff. But this was like beyond. And I didn't know I was capable of doing it. I had no idea what to do. But then I started to break it down and look at them as people. And what can I do to make their day better? And at the end of it, it turned out to be a rewarding day. Learned some lessons, challenged myself, build some character. But maybe we do something brave. Maybe we try to limit social media. We have a digital simplicity challenge where we're going to limit social media or screen time and replace it with something else. Maybe reading, walking, having a conversation, sending emails to people, maybe calling people instead of just texting. Maybe a personal growth challenge includes a faith-based challenge. Maybe each week you're going to put scripture in action. You take a verse and you try to live it out intentionally. Do unto others as I have done unto you. You do unto the least of these, you do unto me. That's a verse that I kind of keep with me that actually came to mind that day I walked into that class. Jesus says, you do unto the least of these, you do unto me. Now, it doesn't matter what he's talking about because to me, the least of these is anybody. I take that as if whatever I do to somebody else is as if I'm doing to Jesus. Maybe you have a prayer partner. Can't we use a lot of prayer? Or a prayer walk challenge. If you ever saw the movie Facing the Giants, look it up. But there's a scene in there where a guy is going through the halls of the school and on the locker, he's praying for each individual locker. Now, he's not praying for the locker, but he's praying for each individual student whom the locker belongs to. That was the thing. Now, obviously, people can't do that today, but maybe if you walk around the school, stand out sidewalk, pray for the school, pray for the government, pray for other people. There's a lady at the church I go to that gets up every morning around, I think 4 a.m., something like that, and she prays for at least 1 hour, praying for people. And one of the things that when you can get into it is that when someone passes away, the prayer does not die. The prayer can continue on. That request can continue on, and God can still honor that request. Now, she didn't die, but I'm just saying, prayer is very powerful, probably something that a lot of us really don't understand the full effect of. Maybe in that faith-based challenge, you have a gratitude to God journal. Maybe you do it for 30 days, 60 days. Maybe that's a part of your, intentional morning. But just in general, if we focus on gratitude and thankfulness over grumbling and complaining, our lives are going to be so much better. So maybe that's something. Maybe you're not spiritual minded. Maybe you're not a faith-based person, but we can all grumble less, complain less. We could be grateful a whole lot more, and maybe forgive others a whole lot more. If you're looking for a relationship and maybe community challenge, maybe reach out. Reach out to people you've lost touch with. Maybe you just spend some time encouraging people. Maybe you're one to undertake something called the Be First Challenge. Be the first to apologize, to forgive, maybe to encourage, or to serve. Be the first to serve others. Maybe a hospitality. Maybe something with hospitality. Maybe you have people over once a week. Oh, a bit much, right? But maybe once a month. Maybe you guys get together, and this month you're going to meet here. This month you're going to meet there. Whatever. And you just get together for a little bit. If you ever watched the movie or the show Gilmore Girls, I think they always had like Friday night dinner or something like that at the parents' house, the grandparents' house, right? But then afterwards, they were like running around town. So either they were out till all hours of the night, or dinner was pretty short. And that's the point. It doesn't have to be a long, drawn out thing. Maybe you get together for an hour, and that's it, a short period of time. Maybe you start doing whatever it is for a short period of time. Maybe you have a service or impact challenge that you want to do. Again, random acts of kindness, serve where it's uncomfortable, schools, shelters, community cleanups. Maybe give up something or give something away. Instead of buying coffee every day, maybe you buy water for the homeless person on the street corner. Or maybe you give that money, as little as it is, to an organization. There's a organization, Friends of Madagascar Development. They're trying to create drinking wells for the people of Madagascar, because clean drinking water is pretty rare. Okay. And to find it, they have to go long distances. But one of the things that they have, their campaign is Thanks a Million campaign, and it's $3 a month for 3 months. That's it, $9. Okay. Maybe the price of a cup of coffee, maybe, the price of a couple drinks at the mini mart. And then they ask if you get 3 other people to do it. But their ask is just $3 a month for 3 months, $9. But if a lot of people did that, it adds up over time. So we all contribute a little, and everybody contributes a little, and it becomes much. So maybe that's what we do. A little bit of our time, a little bit of our money, a little bit of our attention. But if we all started to do things like that, the new year could be something that much bigger. Because a little effort, just like the little pebble in the lake gives a ripple, the littlest that we do together communitively, whether in the neighborhood, the community, the city, whatever, can have a big effect. So maybe we do something like that. It only takes a little from each of us to have a huge impact. And then maybe we want to do something like living our faith out loud through the community, just basically being a light through the actions that we do, not arguments. Maybe instead of arguing on social media, maybe we get off social media, but maybe we encourage people. Maybe we shift our mindset from what can I achieve to who I can serve, or who can I serve? What can I achieve about me? And you can achieve a lot. I'm not saying don't achieve, but maybe we focus some things to who can I serve? And we have a servant attitude, a servant heart. Maybe we start to build unity in a divided world, and we create those ripple effects through small, faithful steps. It's completely up to you. There was and maybe the final thing would be, maybe you want to have a personal commitment or collective impact on yourself. Maybe you choose one spiritual habit to deepen, or one thing that you want to deepen, choosing that one relationship to invest in a little bit more, choosing that one way to serve beyond your comfort a little bit more, maybe trusting God with the outcomes while committing to his obedience a little bit more. Whatever it is. Maybe you do it just a little bit more, but maybe you do it now, because time is short. So we do it now. Whatever we do and all the things that we talked about, we do it now because now is the time to do it because life is short. Tomorrow is not promised. Yes, as of this conversation right now, there's still a few more days left in this year. Maybe some of us don't make it to the new year. Maybe God calls us home before then. Maybe the rapture happens and we come back and we leave this world, whatever it is. But we do it now because we want to live a life that impacts others and make other people better along with ourselves. And together we can make the new year a whole lot better. But maybe we need to start now and use those 86,400 seconds that are available to us and use every little bit of it. And then I would say if there's a time where we kind of waste them, again, we're giving up the regret. We're giving up the disappointment. We're leaving that behind. And if we do get a tomorrow, we start fresh tomorrow. But we do it now. This is Two Steps Ahead podcast, encouraging you to take your passion, make it happen, let yourself be great. Check out our website, radiowarp.com. That's radio, W-A-R-P, radiowarp.com. You can click on the Two Steps Ahead podcast logo. Some video shows, past video shows, I think they all pop up right there. You can scroll through and select a show with many different topics. There's also a green banner, I believe, that goes across the middle of the page. If you click on that green banner, it takes you to our Podbean account, which is our audio version. So maybe that's a little bit easier for you to listen to. You can listen to us anywhere you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartMedia, Apple Podcasts. You can do an internet search, TWO for the two. So TWO, Two Steps Ahead podcast, and we pop up there. And you can also check us out on social media. We're at all the spots on social media. And just, hey, Google, hey, Siri, hey, Alexa, play TWO. Two Steps Ahead podcast, and our show pops up. So we're pretty easy to find. And as always, the invitation is there. The email address, twostepsaheadpodcast@gmail.com. Again, TWO, twostepsaheadpodcast@gmail.com. Reach out. If you feel like there's no place to reach out to me. If I can't help you, I will definitely find somebody that can help you, or maybe somebody more in your area, your location, whatever it is. But don't ever feel like you have no one to talk to, no one to reach out to, because you can always reach out to me. And again, if I can't help you, I will find somebody that can. So don't hesitate to reach out. You can also DM me and all that on social media, whether it's we have a TikTok thing, we have a Instagram, we have Facebook. So again, whether it's those places or our email, twostepsaheadpodcast@gmail.com, reach out and I will respond. The new year's upon us. Make the most of what's left of this year. Move into the new year with faith, with confidence, with boldness. Live for the now and make it a great year. And as always, we like to appreciate and thank you for listening. We appreciate your listening to the show. We appreciate your support. And again, take your passion, make it happen. Let yourself be great. I'm Son Edom. Thanks for listening. Do tell a friend. And until next time, God bless.